Thank you for joining us again today for the Digital 2.0 Modern Digital Executive Interview Series. Today with me, I've got Lori Gustafson with Marriott Vacations Worldwide. Did I get that right, Lori?
That's right.
If you wouldn't mind, give us a little intro. What are you doing for Marriott today?
Jeremy, thanks so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I'm the Chief Brand and Digital Officer here at Marriott Vacations Worldwide. We're located in Orlando, Florida. MVW, as we refer to it oftentimes internally, is a leader in the vacation ownership and third-party management and exchange space. We've got 7 great premium brands that span across the Marriott and Hyatt portfolio, as well as a variety of travel technologies. And we're squarely focused in sort of the leisure or vacation space. So it's an incredibly fun business to be in. We've got a 40-year rich history and actually spun out from Marriott International about 10 years ago. So a publicly traded company that's doing really great things, especially when it comes to digital. So excited to talk with you today about that.
Absolutely. And love to hear these stories and get some of the insights, especially through your journey on helping organizations do this through digital experiences and how you transform companies is a big focus for us. You've been doing this for a while. You've worked with some fairly large organizations as well. And what we want to try to dig into is, can you talk a little bit about your history in your career? What are some of the biggest lessons learned and where you found some of the best successes transforming your companies and as you go through the digital transformation process?
I've had, the opportunity to work at really large companies in different phases of growth. Darden Restaurants being one of them, SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment being another, and now even at Marriott Vacations Worldwide. So spanning a lot of travel and hospitality brands, which I think we can all relate to in our personal lives. Those tend to be pretty face-to-face businesses. And so when you think about that digital transformation, it's a lot of like, what does that look like? How does that impact our business? For me, it's probably started with the mindset. When it comes to driving and influencing your organization to do big, significant things, you've got to have the right mindset right from the beginning. And that mindset shift is really driven by humans, I would say, not tools, not processes. The right mindset really shapes how people see and interpret the world and kind of leads to a specific pattern of thinking and behaving. So if you're trying to change people's habits in your organization, especially those who have very tenured individuals in their organization, or maybe have grown up through a specific functional area or lane, being able to sort of influence those individuals and have them see a bigger picture and be along for the journey is really important. It's human nature to come to those individuals and try to reiterate what's in it for them. That's sort of the mindset. If we do this, this is what this means for you and your business and your people. And ultimately, the mindset is probably number one. The second is I always lead with a point of view. I've learned not to really wait to be assigned the job of innovation or transformational thinking. I've found that the more senior you go up in an organization, people want something to react to. The CEOs and boards that I've had the opportunity to spend great time with, they want to hear from experts. If you're listening to this right now and an up-and-comer in your organization, or even if you're in that C-suite, it's a good reminder to always lead with your point of view. That allows you to really kind of walk the talk and make sure that there's no gap in the say and do thinking. And then the third, in my experience, finding early adopters who can really partner with you and champion the vision across the organization is incredibly important. The transformation aren't always time boxed. I mean, when you think about going into a long range planning session or maybe starting a huge project that's characterized as being transformational, oftentimes they're part of a long-term strategy. One of the pieces of having these champions and early adopters early on is for them to socialize your quick wins. That's really, really important to gain momentum, inertia, energy, because so much about driving these types of transformational programs forward is really casting the vision and rallying your organizational troops to help you deliver. Those are probably 3 of the big ones that if I had to reflect on what I've learned, mindset, leading with a point of view, and finding early adopters and championing those quick wins would probably be important and imperative to any future effort that I do.
You put a lot of effort into the people and change management too. That mindset and vision setting, it sounds like a large part of the focus is how do you motivate everyone around you to go with that change?
That's right. I mean, because if you think about it, there's incredibly talented experts across technology fields. You can always find external resources to help you fill a gap or have an expertise in a space that you might not have internally. But if you don't have the people internally to really champion and drive the vision forward and to really rally and be able to influence sort of outcomes happening, the people leadership is just such a critical part of any transformational effort. And that implementation and long-term adoption, so much about transformational work, it's not just digitizing an antiquated or analog process. It's about reimagining what that process should be. You're really saying to someone, today, I know you do it this way. Tell me what it looks like to do it in the future. Oftentimes, you got to help people along the journey there and then have the technology support and kind of futuristic thinking to get there.
And it's a many-step process. One of the things that I've always found interesting is when we started with this series, Digital 2.0 was all about the evolution of digital transformation. A lot of folks and a lot of organizations have gone through this process over the last 15 to 20 years even. And now we're seeing that everybody's having to go back and figure out what the next transformation is. We use that word a lot, transformation. Can you give me a little bit of background, like in your mind, what is a transformation at its core concept for you and for the organizations that you work with?
Two things. To me, the word transformation or innovation or modernization, those words mean new ways of working, new ways of thinking, and I think ultimately new ways of being. While initial efforts, and I put this in parentheses, kind of a transformational movement usually focuses on functions or bringing new consumer products to market or changing business models, I really think transformation shouldn't be limited to that. Often companies, as you said, embark on these efforts to do something differently, to go faster, to automate, to make it self-service, to have, a more data-driven approach. But ultimately, the new ways of being is really adopting what a kind of customer-centric mindset is, as well as deploying agile ways of working across entire organization so that everyone benefits, no matter the functional or whether it's a corporate initiative and regardless of the audience. I think we often talk a lot about the impacts transformations make on customers, but I also think the associate experience is equally as important. We're seeing that in all the trends now around employee experience or EX. Not just taking what we do today and automating it or simplifying it or making it digital. It's really how do you sort of reimagine or rethink how that business process is done and then deliver that powered by a technology solution and then roll that out. That is a pretty tall order.
I love that idea, though. What you're really talking about in a lot of ways is turning what used to be a person-to-person interaction and expanding that into the digital space is really what you're focused on then.
That's exactly right. For me, specifically digital, I think it's an enabler. It's not an end. It's really a bold ambition. In our category in particular, you still want to be able to make sure that we don't lose kind of high touch moments or opportunities to really delight our guests, and in our case, our owners or members. But at the same time, we have to be cognizant of the ways in which we want to work. So when you're booking your vacation experience, there's a few steps you take. How you search by destination or by experience is really important. How do we sort of inspire you and become the experts in this space across our organization? How do we rally around delivering the best possible experience to you? And I would also say simultaneously being efficient and making that we also care a lot about how our associates can deliver on that too. So whether you're working in a call center, you're managing our AI chatbots, you are working in a resort operations capacity where you're in the field and having that kind of frontline experience, making sure that we empower people with the tools and solutions and experiences that help them get on vacation is important. And sometimes it's easier said than done.
Any of these implementations and any of the changes that you make, you're going to find stumbling blocks. I mean, that's the fun of any kind of change that you implement, right?
That is right.
What do you think is going to enable you to do this faster, better as time goes on? What are some of the pieces that you think are going to open up possibilities for you to transform organizations as you move forward in the next 5 to 10 years, whether it's technology, people, or otherwise for that matter?
mindset, vision setting, and then a commitment to the investment. Our CEO and board that has commitment to enabling these types of transformations and then having the support internally to make it happen. It starts with people, the right people and the right talent to make it come to life. We're facing what a lot of companies are facing, run of acquisitions over the last 5 years. Our company's doubled in size. So with that comes a variety of technical debt at times, right? I think every company and everybody listening faced with legacy technology solutions that are a hindrance in some way or creating some pain point, and technology partners and teams desperately want to move to more cloud-based solutions, more the technology solutions of the future. So that pivot to perform and transform simultaneously. Less than 12% of corporate America executives are scoring well and being able to do both right now. And so going back to how do you show quick wins? How do you deliver for the business today and also simultaneously transform for the future? I think is a really challenging business and professional charge. And how do you sort of calibrate your teams? How do you organize yourself? If you can sort of think about it that way over the next 5 or 10 years, were you earning the credibility and the right to proceed internally? I believe I'll win and my team will win and our organization will win. And that's also what I think is a good way for folks to think about it. Straddling both of those priorities is a difficult task for anyone to focus on in the next 10 years.
Oh, I can see it. Run and maintain while transforming and growing at the rate you're at is never an easy balancing act. It's interesting with a lot of these conversations, we end up talking about, high acquisitions and how that change on top of everything else that you're changing and everything else that you're trying to implement and new products to go to market, new ways to interact with your clients, kind of adds in the chaos theory.
I've been told by a CEO or two, Lori, that's why we call it work. And you're like, okay, I got it. If it was easy, it wouldn't be work. I'm like, okay, I'm up for the challenge, right? And I think, again, projects of significance, high reward for being able to lead all company changing efforts, bringing a futuristic point of view to an organization and sort of helping to drive that mindset. It takes a lot of energy and investment and time.
For the mindset piece, when you're talking about this, how do you get buy-in, consensus? How do you drive that with your teams today?
I go on a listening and learning tour, which I've learned from leaders and individuals, even on my team, where, that's been my approach to seek to listen and learn first, which I know it sounds really simple, but taking time to meet with the top 50 or 100 individuals across your organization, depending on the size, and asking them about what is it that they do on the day-to-day and what would make it better for them and what are the ideas that they've had. And if you could have one thing, what would that thing be? What are you passionate about? And what do you think our customers really want? Those are some of the key questions I think really start to help you uncover core needs in your organization and also simultaneously understand what's important to those people who have decision-making capabilities. And if you're able to kind of capture and catalog that and then distill that back so it goes back to what's in it for me, that has been one of my successful tactics in order to start to drive a bit of that vision, not a pride of authorship moment. It's you are a part of the solutioning here. And here's what I heard when I spoke with you about what we really need. And then here's what's next, and being able to story tell in a way that, imagine if you were an associate, this is the experience you would have. You would have all of this entire Salesforce ecosystem right at your fingertips, and you'll be able to navigate this way, saving yourself X number of time. Here's the productivity increases. Here's the KPIs or sort of benefits that would be delivered for both our customers and for our people, tend to be kind of the next step, I would say. And then the third piece of that would be like, okay, well, and here's what I need from you in order to deliver on this vision. And so those are the three, I'd say, things that I would do in order to start to drive that mindset shift, bringing people along for the journey.
Getting that buy-in and then enabling them to feel the ownership for it, sounds like, is one of the key pieces, right? Let them understand it's not just you driving it, it's everybody that's at the table and all the stakeholders that could potentially be there that are going to really get this change done.
That's right. I mean, every company has its own dynamics and sort of situation, just in terms of what's a priority. So in the larger companies in particular, that kind of cross-functional, horizontal view, horizontal buy-in is really, really important, especially if you're trying to have a more singular view of your customer or be able to deliver, I think, solutions that impact all the way across the organization.
All right, Lori, we're going to jump into a really quick game. This is a pretty fun one. It's called the hot seat. It's really just, we're going to give you 5 or 6 subjects here. Give me a really quick first impression, hype, real, or WTF. First one, AI.
Real. AI and ML, machine learning, we're multiple years off from realizing full potential, but I think there's going to be major upside and positive impacts to organizations with AI.
The Metaverse.
A little bit of hype, a little bit of real, and a little bit of WTF. I'd say, an equal slice of each one of those. I do believe ultimately it will be a realized vision, and given the investment and technology companies who have a big role to play in our consumption, it's still a ways out, but I do believe it will be real. But right now, I would say it's an equally thirds of each one of those suggested, responses.
I love it. Now, this one's a little bit debatable because of the last couple of weeks of action that we've had, but crypto.
Oh, crypto. I think it's in a hype stage right now. I do believe there's a future world for crypto, obviously, in a meaningful way. From a vision casting perspective in crypto, I think it's a little too soon to tell. I think it's going to be a mainstay, and it just depends. I think we're a little too early to tell on how much impact it makes and the role it plays in the future.
Last one, remote work, hybrid work.
I think it's here for sure to stay. I think there will be, I would say, adaptable ways of working will be probably the norm in terms of an expectation of current and next generation workers. I do believe the role you play and the job you have is telling, right? So for our organization, we're in the hospitality and travel business. The majority of our workforce has to be in a face-to-face interaction, right? You can't really, at this point, the future's coming. So eventually there'll be robots to check you in, I think, in somewhere at some place. But at this point in kind of our trajectory, you need people to be on site to run a resort, to have a sales operation in certain cases, while having somebody in those capacities. But I think it's very different for call center operations and corporate functions and developers and sort of, technology resources, individuals who are wanting to be very content with, their home position and really can work anywhere. So I would say that it's going to be a bit of both. I would say it is real. I do think we'll see maybe a bit of a pendulum swing. I think we've shifted really far, and it's going to come back to a more modest middle, which is definitely better than where we were pre-COVID. And I think it's the way of the future for sure.
Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an awesome conversation with you. Before we kind of close out for the day, I want to give you that open floor here. Anything you want to share with anybody that's going to view this, ways to contact you, things that are going on, open floor.
This is one of the things that's really exciting for me. I'd love to just brag on my company for a second. And, to do that, I'd love to just start with the big picture about our industry and kind of the strength of leisure travel. Leisure travel in particular is booming, which is great news for us. I think it's great news for anybody listening to this right now who wants to take, their family and friends on vacation. Marriott Vacations Worldwide is 100% leisure focused. Again, as I mentioned, we have these globally recognized premium travel and hospitality brands. What's exciting for us is with kind of leisure's relevance and vacations being viewed as non-discretionary, we do believe the time is right to innovate and kind of what we're saying is designing the vacation ownership experience for the future. So last week, we actually had our investor day at the New York Stock Exchange, and we announced that we're embarking on a multi-year initiative called Vacation Next. And we've just introduced a new owner program, which will be debuting this summer, called Bound by Marriott Vacations. It's all about being able to make sure we're appealing to the next generation of travelers. Given the strength of our brands and our focus on the segment and future innovations, we're perfectly positioned for what's ahead. And for anybody who wants to follow along our journey, you can find me on LinkedIn At Lori Gustafson, I think is probably the best way to reach me. Or if you type me in, I'm sure I'll come up. Really excited about the future ahead. And thanks so much for having me today.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of the changes as you go along. And if anybody else wants to tune in, reach out, let us know what you think. Thank you again, Lori, and we'll talk again soon.
My pleasure. Take care.